I was saying good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central on a Monday morning. It is indeed very exciting to note that you've decided to join us again as we bring to you the latest stories from across the continent, most importantly here in Nigeria. My name is Joe Hansen, and we do have Benga Boroa, who comes up right again, dressing like the man in black on a Monday morning. Good morning, Benga.
Good morning, Nigeria. Where else would you rather start your Monday morning than with the dynamic trio of breakfast television in Nigeria? And Benga Boroa, you're welcome to Breakfast Central.
Right, and I'm very excited to be back. It's been 2 weeks away from TV, 2 weeks too long away from Breakfast Central. Excited to be here again, reunited with my fantastic team. Benga and I have been together, of course, for years. We worked together many years ago, and it's great to see that we get the opportunity to work together.
9 years later, we're back together.
I know, it's a full circle moment. Yes. Indeed. I am Olive Emodi, and I unfortunately was not around when my former co-host, Osalgi Ogbonwa, was sent forth. This is just to say thank you to Osalgi Ogbonwa for the time we worked together, for really being just generally an all-round fantastic person, and thank you for making work easy for me. I'm going to incredibly miss you. I will look forward to, the next journey of Breakfast Central. You'll always be a part of the family. It's good to be back, Joe.
Great to have you, by the way. So much to talk about today. I'm going to start off first with what happened over the weekend. By the way, let's bring to you our top 3 stories from the weekend. At number 3, it's got to do with an Indian traveler who decided to come down to Nigeria and went to some of the remotest parts. Not just that, she decided to stroke Nigerians with her koboko, especially made from India. And how did she do this? Well, she said Nigeria is dirty. Nigerians are beggars. Can you imagine that, beggar?
She also said Nigeria is smelly. I mean, she just denigrated the entire population of 220 million Nigerians. You know what's unique about Nigerians? We don't mind, we're our own biggest critics. Nigerians like to criticize Nigeria, but the moment a foreigner, even from Togo or Benin, let alone India, say these terrible things about Nigerians, then you let out the floodgates, and Nigerians on social media responded as expected. They dragged the entire Indian subcontinent, and so many comments that we can't even share here. But there are so many other things to this. I wonder what Olive thinks about her comments.
That's the young woman there. Her name is Garima Bashki. She has a YouTube channel with over 500,000 subscribers on one, and then her personal channel where she has about, I think, 11,000 subscribers. Now, the interesting thing is when you go on a YouTube channel, I'm going to read some of the titles of the videos we see here. Reality. This was 5 days ago. I don't know if this one came up because of the bashing. Reality of living in Africa's friendliest nation in Sierra Leone. But if you look at the videos before that, Indian girl arrested in Africa's dictator country, Guinea. The next video, how the rudest country of Africa treats an Indian. The one before that, she has living in West Africa's most chaotic city in Guinea, Conakry. And before that, crossing world's worst border into Conakry in Bush in West Africa. Then the final one here, country of thieves in Africa, don't walk alone in Bissau. And you can see the way she highlights certain words. Here she highlights arrested, dictator, rudest, like she uses bold letters for them, chaotic, worse, thieves. And it just makes me wonder if she really has an agenda. You can see here that she thrives on sensationalism. In this video that is playing, she criticizes this man for allegedly saying that she stole 50,000 naira. What she fails to mention, however, is that there are people in that vehicle that spoke up for her, that challenged the man, that said they were even going to go to the police station. So you never talked about the fact that there are people, Nigerians, stand up for truth, You never talk about the fact that Nigerians speak up for truth when they see injustice. Nigerians speak up for foreigners. We speak up for each other. What she focused on was the fact that there was one man in that car that was acting out of order.
We caught the bait from, and I'm glad you did that research by going to a YouTube page and seeing the trends, the sort of sensational words she uses to describe African countries. She's definitely farming for engagement. That's what she's doing, and she's hit a target market. Nigerians will definitely focus on this for quite some time, and we're very vicious and very opinionated on social media. So, I mean, there's so many issues to this. There's the generalization, there's there are also issues she mentioned that, you know, home truths that we also need to look at. That
and just to mention the fact that there's one thing she forgets is that she's a single woman traveling solo in Nigeria and still able to travel. Can a single woman like that be able to boast about traveling around India just like that every time? I mean, it's just like generalizing. India has its struggles. They've talked about how, you know, women are not necessarily considered safe in India because of sexual violence and rape. So it's just using one brush or one broom to sweep. And that's not to say that some of her arguments aren't legit. Yeah. There's some of the things she has said that, oh yes, this is true. Are there people that are begging? Of course, this is a result of poverty. But India struggles with poverty just as much as Nigeria. Exactly. In fact, we've done Olympics. India overtook us. We overtook India on the list, you know, back and forth. So these are just general struggles that countries are dealing with. And if you must be a travel blogger, whilst it's important that you report what you see, be gracious in countries that you visit.
Well, that's one. But let's talk about the kidnapper, otherwise known as Evans. That name rings a bell. That's number 2 top story from the weekend. Now, Evans has come out to say that he's ready to be an ambassador for crime. In other words, many have asked, where is Evans, the big-time kidnapper who became wealthy, made riches, and so on and so forth from kidnapping? And if you recall, right from the time Evans was caught, kidnapping started becoming a thing. It kind of like seemed, Binga, like it was a negative publicity, because since it was publicized that Evans made so much wealth and riches, it seems like it struck a chord, and everybody said, oh, this business is viable.
Yeah,
you know what?
Godfather of kidnapping.
Yeah.
And that's not all to Evans' story, not just the kidnapping. So people don't think, I mean, kidnapping is as bad as anything you can imagine. He was also arraigned for murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and others. But that's not the news. The big news is that, you know, his lawyers are trying to get him a plea bargain deal. They said he's a repentant man. He's studying as a 200-level student at the National Open University. And Joe and Olive, he made A1s in all his NECO papers.
Wow,
so
what a bright man.
We should forgive.
Wow, you know, I really want to applaud his intelligence, being able to study in such harsh conditions, you know, should be applauded. It's not easy to be in court, you know, because you've been alleged to have killed people, kidnapped people, collected ransom in millions of dollars, built houses in Lagos, in Magodo, in Accra, you know, own properties, and you maybe fathered the modern kidnappers who have seen that as a business. And yet, in all of this, be able to study and come out with A1. I think that deserves some applause.
He hasn't even served 10 years. He hasn't. And what sort of message? This is not the type of thing you have plea bargains for.
How is this different from, you know, the repentant Boko Harams that come and tell you to forgive them? I think it's the same rope that tie all of them at the end of the day. These repentant Boko Harams come and say, you know what, we are sorry. Let's reintegrate us back into the society. See, I'm not going to kill the fact that there is a place for reintegration into the society. But the structure for reintegration is not in cases like this. There are certain cases when it comes to murder. This is the lives of several other young children who would have also gotten A1 if they had gotten to the university. But unfortunately, you know, they might not get the opportunity to because of a train of kidnapping that has become the trend. Lots of young people have lost their lives. And that's not the kind of conversation we want to be having now. I think he should go through his case in court. He can be studying. That's great.
Do the crime, serve the time.
Simple.
That's it.
You can't forgive. You don't appeal for crime.
I think there seems to be a goal to sensationalize crime stories these days, and the federal government needs to really check it, because we've seen stories where just recently Boko Haram had attacked certain villages of recent, again, talk about Borno, talk about the central Nigeria and so on. But then again, the stories that follow those stories are stories that says, oh, XYZ Boko Haram members have been integrated back to the society, they're now doing this and so on. So I think the federal government needs to check it, especially the ministries that are involved. I'm talking about the ministry of that is involved with orientation, helping Nigerians get to understand what it really is. I think that's what they should do. Spend time ensuring that the messages that are being passed outside are not some sort of messages that encourage people to do what is negative and still expect to, you know, get a hug at the end of the day. But then again, our third story, guys, as time is fast running, Israel Adesanya. I know Olive is, I mean, he's a fine, you know, boxer that the ladies were tripping for. He's got the 6 packs. I mean, I know we're trying as well.
I can see it
on the morning. I know. But he was blazing hot. 4 years, took a little, went on haters, came back, and many thought he'd be able to defeat his contender, his his opponent, but it did not work out again. He lost again.
Third consecutive loss. It reminds me of a football club. And they wear red, but that's all I was saying.
Wow.
You know what? I don't like this
Which football clubs?
UFC.
Are they the ones that start with the first alphabets? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, something.
You gotta be careful.
Wow.
So, you know, I don't even support, I don't like the sports. It's too violent. It's barbaric. I think they should do something about it. But talking about Israel Adesanya, losing 3 games, and you know what makes it sad? It reminds me of a young Muhammad Ali, like he talks tough, you know, all of this, and then they beat you. I mean, at this stage, I think even Olive, if she gets into the octagon with him, Olive might beat him.
Yes, I agree. We're rooting for
shots
Olive.
fired.
Go. Anyway, those are the top 3 stories from the weekend.
Just before we wrap,
go ahead.
He said the referee ended the game too quickly. You should have said. I mean, the referee is trying to protect you. Some of these guys have degenerative brain diseases later on in life. There's no way you could come back from that attack, and so trying to say the referee stopped the game too early is crying over spilled milk. Be a warrior and train harder next time.
Well,
good luck.
I guess I would say at first if you don't succeed, or they say at first if you don't succeed, dust yourself up and try again. And the third time you don't succeed.
He should just leave. He should enter Nollywood. And do something.
Yeah, he's made enough money.
Yeah, I mean, age is catching up. The muscles are becoming constricted a bit. I mean, there's nothing. We saw Mike Tyson at 50-something still going for a bout, but even at that, don't forget this fight was held in Riyadh. There are also stories that, you know, it was all about the money and so. But you see, whatever it is, we'll just say, well done, Israel Adesanya. I mean, you rep Nigeria. Well done. You've changed the narrative. People are looking at Nigeria as a very strong country with fine men and boxers. I mean, we find women too, you know.
Thank you very much for adding that. But I think also we should, as a nation, try our best to not kick our best when they're on the ground. Because sometimes we have a pattern of, and we've seen it with Anthony Joshua, we've seen it with many other, you know, people in the sporting industry. They're doing well, we're cheering for them. The moment they have one loss, the same people that sang, praise him, help him, they're the same ones that will shout crucify him. So let's do better by not kicking people when they're on the ground. Right? But well done, Israel Adesanya. We look forward to seeing many more feats, you know, or if it's retiring, whatever the case, whatever you choose, Nigeria stands beside you and behind you.
But if Lakumi should catch you now, she will beat you.
Who's that? Anyway.
Lakumi is our producer, one of our producers.
All right, guys. That's been the top 3 stories from the weekend. Thank you so much for staying with us. We ask you to stay more. I'll be off. I'll be back at 9 a.m. I leave you in, the amazing hands. These guys are fantastic.
Joe, don't go.
Fantastic. No, I'm around the corner. I'm just going to prep for the news for 9. Yeah, that's it.
All right, we'll see you around.
Yeah, all right.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. Now, from devastating floods to prolonged droughts, climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's a reality that communities in Nigeria are battling with every day. Experts say that if urgent action is not taken to mitigate its effect on citizens, the damage done could become irreversible. News Central's correspondent Idong Joseph has more on this.
With severe floods and extended droughts impacting communities across the country, many will agree that Nigeria has had its own fair share of challenges associated with climate change. Today, farmers like Abraham Jimmy are struggling to cope with the irregular and harsh changes in weather patterns, which have become increasingly severe and unpredictable.
You pour water for 3 days, you see the water have dried off due to the weather. Sometimes you see how the weather will be cool, even from the dry season. You will see sometimes you see breast. Sometimes you will see the well in the night, even in the day. You see how breeze will follow will be blowing. You feel you can be able to even go under sun, after sun, and even walk into the sun. But when you come to sometimes, you see the way they hot.
While the government has made commitments to reduce carbon emissions, experts believe that more needs to be done to reduce reliance on fossil fuels and tackle deforestation.
The biggest source of climate change is how we get and use our energy. The obvious thing that we need to do is to move away from generating our energy from fossil fuel to generating our energy from renewable sources. The good news is that increasingly generating energy from renewable sources such as solar and hydro and wave have become more competitive. The unit cost of generating energy from solar has fallen dramatically.
From plastic pollution to gas flaring, Nigeria faces numerous environmental challenges, thus needing to reduce its carbon emissions. With many citizens unaware of how their daily activities contribute to climate change, experts say that transitioning to renewable energy, enforcing existing deforestation laws, and investing in public awareness campaigns are key ways to address these crises.
Waste management is a very big gap. We do not have a lot of waste management companies, because if we say we're going to leave that to the government, it's also not going to be sustainable.
We have renewable energy issues, we have solar, we have wind, we have so many areas of renewable energy that youth can be engaged to be self-sustained.
Our forest cover is being lost at an alarming rate. So we need to arrest this by aggressively pursuing a deforestation, afforestation and reforestation policy. And by the way, at an individual level, people need to make better choices.
Environmental experts say that the challenges posed by climate change in Nigeria are real and require solutions that involve both policymakers and the public. They call for increased awareness and bold actions that will determine the country's future. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Interesting conversation on climate change. I mean, Africa is the least polluter when it comes to climate change, but we're more susceptible to its effects. But it's now for us to look into our first top story of the day. Dangote Refinery over the weekend announced a reduction in the price of premium motor spirit, commonly known as petrol. Some good news, from 950 to 890 naira per litre. According to the refinery's spokesperson, Anthony Chiejene, the price slash is a response to the positive outlook in global energy markets and the recent reduction in international crude oil prices.
Now here's what you should know. The new price takes effect immediately. The Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, say that the price reduction may not immediately reflect in pump prices, as many marketers still have old stock. This reduction comes just weeks after the refinery had raised prices due to earlier increases in crude oil prices in the global market. The refinery cut petrol prices by 7.5% to 899 naira 50 kobo per litre on December 19, 2024, but raised it to 955 naira per litre on January 17, 2025, citing rising Brent crude prices.
Now, this move is expected to drive down the prices of goods and services, reducing the overall cost of living and having a positive impact on various sectors of the economy. Joining us now is the National Publicity Secretary of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Chinedu Ukadike, to make sense of all of this. But before we join Chinedu Ukadike, we'll go on a quick break, and once we return, we'll get straight into the discussion. Do stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We have Mr. Chinedu Ukadike joining us for the conversation this morning. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. All right, Mr. Ukadike, let's get into the conversation proper. There's been a reduction to 890 naira. I think the first question will be how significant this is, this reduction that we're talking about. You know, is it worth celebrating, and at what point do we start to see its effect reflected in the price of goods and services across the country?
Well, as I see you smiling, It shows that you also welcome the decrease in price. I keep on saying this is the beauty of deregulation. Whatever that are the factors of production will definitely affect the price, export price of petroleum products. I also want to congratulate Aliko Dangote for religiously adhering to the international price of crude oil. And now that the crude oil is 81 naira per barrel, $81 per barrel, we're also looking at possible decrease in crude oil because of the energy revolution, because of some also political changes globally. So with what has happened now, Nigerians have hit the relief that, well, they are so loved their fuel that Nigeria's the economy has gone down to 890 naira and will further go down. Last time we had this discussion when this price was reviewed upwards. I know so many Nigerians frowned at it. Even some civil organizations wanted to, demonstrate and all the rest of them. But it is not something that is human. It is demand and supply. And as demand and supply in a simple economy, it means price. So now that the crude oil is now 81, we're also looking at further reduction because of this energy revolution. A lot of things are going on. The gas expansion program is ongoing. Electrical cars are coming in and all the rest of them. So I also believe that in any distant time, with the competition, NLC, Dangote ongoing, and also some few other refineries springing up, definitely we'll get there, definitely.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okadike. Just the type of good news we expect on a Monday morning. Oliver and I are looking forward to the days of fill-up. I've not heard that in a petrol station in a long time, or 10,000 naira to fill your tank. But away from that, given Dangote's call for marketers to pass on the benefits of the reduced price to Nigerians, how is IPMAN ensuring that independent marketers comply with this directive? Because oftentimes we hear that they've not sold the stock they bought at a higher price. But when there's a corresponding increase, they never wait for that stock to finish. They implement immediately. So how do you respond to this?
Well, that is the dynamics of the market. When you have an old stock that has a reduction in price, you will try as much as possible to be able to sell it out. And if possible, you can't sell it out because new stock will jam it. It is not only one particular marketer that owns a filling station. There are so many other marketers that own it. There are people who are making orders today. And those who are making orders today will definitely sell at a new price. Those who have old stock will try to see how they can be able to manage, bring in new stock, and see how they can be able not to lose a lot. It's people are not talking about when there is price increase, we move. It's about making profit. We're not making profits. We're also trying to see whether we can be able to use the little margin that they have added to be able to buy another one. If we sell less on those margin, we cannot be able to buy a new one. These are the products. This is in and out. So long as the product is reduced, you can see some few filling stations are already this morning. Some of them have adjusted because they are still expectant of the new product. They have exhausted their old stock. And when products are high, marketers don't exhaust petroleum product quickly. But when products are low, marketers exhaust because people tend to buy more products and go to several places, without minding the cost of petroleum products. But once products are above 1,000, you will find out people don't normally feed their tanks. So what you're asking in effect is that why don't we do an instant reduction once there's price reduction? You have also forgotten that this product will put it at 1,100, 1,150. You have to cushion the effect of the losses you're going to make. We are individuals, we are businessmen, we establish our business, to be able to make profits. And if we begin to go up and down like this, most of us will not last in this business. And that is why we are clamoring to see where the federal government can give us a petroleum bank that can be able to improve some of these lapses. If we have a petroleum bank, the petroleum bank will be able to discount, or insurance will be able to discount the losses and find out what you have in your filling station then supply another one and be able to see how they can be able to take up the risk. There is not only the risk for an independent market. How is it going to? So one of my friends bought almost 5 million liters last week. You are going to lose many of them, and now they're decreasing price. It's going to lose billions of naira. Nobody is kept thinking about that. Nobody is thinking about how government can come in to be able to do such a loss. So,
can we hear you?
As independent marketers, we are just trying as much as possible to be able to see how this regulation process will take us. And some other enabling policies that can make us, that can sustain us in this business.
I will hear you about, the loss that this might cost Petron or the independent, marketers if at the end of the day they, get to. I mean, I was watching an interview and someone said something as little as 6 naira difference would cause a huge change, and it would have huge implications when you're looking at the millions of liters that the independent marketers have. But my colleague raised a very valid point that it's understandable if you say to us now that for a while, a number of these people will still have to sell out their old stock based off the old model. But when there is an increase, shouldn't there be some sort of policy that ensures that they still sell that old stock that they have with the old price until they're ready to purchase? Because at the end of the day, that's not fair to the consumer. But we'll come to revisit that. I want you to, again, speak to us. I believe I had asked this earlier, but I don't know that you spoke to that. When do we expect to see, what timelines are we looking at in terms of timelines when we'll have uniformity with the reduction in the pump price of petrol, as well as when we'll start to see the effect on the price of goods and services? Or is it too little for us to see an effect in the prices of goods and services?
Well, we see in Nigeria, it's not only in petroleum products. In Nigeria, once state goes up, once it's in the hands of individuals, it's also so difficult for it to come down. You understand? Except that it's a drastic reduction. And this reduction is not drastic, it's minimal. With time, it will start, reflect. You can also see that the dollar, Nigerian naira is also gaining strength. And once it's also this also will affect the cost of goods and services in the market. It is not only oil. When we talk about oil, yes, oil drives almost 40 to 45% of goods and services in the country because of its reflective impact in transportation. But it's dollar. Dollar is more reflective because when the dollar goes down, you find that goods and services will go down drastically because 70% of what are used in this country are all imported. And once they are imported and the dollar is high, you must get it on the high price, no matter what is how much they sell petroleum products. So these two things must have to come together to be able to, for consumers and the people of Nigeria to feel the impact of reduction in prices. So they must be able to comprehend. So, and with time, things are coming, getting better, gradually. With what Dangote is doing now, and with other what NLC and all the rest of them are doing, the competition in the oil and gas industry, it will definitely get to the telecom industry that we are seeing today. What has happened in the old Nitel and the initial people that started selling SIM cards in Nigeria, how they are selling 50,000. But then I think that is free. Very soon, fuel and other commodities will be made very, 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 very available. I'm not speaking for the government, but I also believe that government has a hand in this by ensuring that their policies are being kept and the reduction of our transactions on all the citizens and ensure that also crude oil is being given to these refineries to continue production. Because once Dangote is not giving crude oil and it sources from the international market, definitely there is a change. There will be a change in plan. And you now have seen the beauty of deregulation that now Dangote is not cutting the short. Once Dangote changes price, NNPC will change and all the rest of them. The issue of NNPC now, being the only source of petroleum products in Nigeria, that issue is stopped. Now we have dual sources of petroleum products. Wherever it is cheaper, like now, Dangote is cheaper. Wherever it is cheaper, we need independent marketers to continue to buy and service our customers because the true reflect of whether pump price have changed in the X pump, the X pump price. When people go to the filling station and see that the pump prices have changed, that will want to shout hallelujah. But now that we're talking about the media, and they have gone to the pump and the store are still selling 980 naira, 1,000 naira, 970. They will not feel the impact. But once this thing goes down, we start saying 920, 910, the competition will everybody want to be in this business. Nobody wants to be subchanged. So the era of scarcity, which we have conquered, the era of non-supply of petroleum products, we have conquered that one. We're no longer talking about scarcity. That is full everywhere. But our problems now is prices and modalities of taking these petroleum products to our destination. One particular thing you will also have to take into consideration is the mode of transportation of this petroleum product. Dangote is in Lagos. And there's no way people must travel to Lagos to then get this product. Or people must use vessels to take it to the waterways of Nigeria, where we have private depots to deliver this product. So we also look at all those transportation processes. And there was a elaborated pipeline. And see how the minister and those that are involved can be able to make sure that the transition of these petroleum products will be more easier for us, so that we will get more reduction in pump price.
Now, Mr. Okadike, just before we begin to wind down on this conversation, with the revival of the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries, we're expecting a further decrease in the price of petrol products. How do you see this affecting the pricing dynamics in a way that Nigerians can plan ahead and it's more stable, or we're always going to respond to global Brent crude oil prices? Where would business owners won't be able to plan ahead and know, okay, this is what we budget for energy?
The federal government and subsidiaries, the NNPCL, that's the minister and the CEO of NLC, they are on top of this matter to ensure that the refinery they have started already in their own regime, which is very, very landmark. We need the managers. We welcome it, we applaud them, we share with them. We're also happy that at least there is a competition ongoing between NNPCL and Dangote. It has caused a price war. And the CEO of NNPCL continued to reassure us that these refineries have started, they will make sure that it will upgraded and they will manufacture in its, they will produce in its optimal condition. And for now, the refineries are producing, yes, they are refining petroleum products, but it's up to now, it's not what we have anticipated. They are loading in the refinery, they are loading automatic gasoline oil. Now they have not started dispensing PMS, which is PMS, the most common commodity everybody is more interested in. In as much as this will also have impact in the site in terms of haulage transportation. So, like what you just asked now, if actually the PMS of NNPCL goes into the market, and now Dangote has reduced 890, and maybe NNPC will announce a price regime of maybe 880 or 870. Now, that is a bit of the regulation. Marketers will not know whether to take from NNPC or to take from the Dangote. But for now, as I'm still talking to you, to the goodness of my knowledge, we have now started loading PMS from Telecom. In as much as we have started loading HU, we have this online in Telecom. Marketers are buying this. The engineering process of re-establishing or revitalization of an old refinery to produce, I don't know for how long it will take for that refinery to start producing PMS. But as I can confirm to you now that the Port Harcourt refinery, our marketers are loading diesel, automated gasoline oil now, and they load previously, they keep on loading since when they started that refinery. And also in Warri, December, I cannot confirm to you right now that we have started loading PMS.
All right. I think my final question, as quickly as you can answer this, would be You and I mean, we've had you on the show discuss Dangote's travails to get to where he is here. He's been through a lot. The Dangote brand has been through a lot, but they are still standing. And as a matter of fact, have been able to impact our fuel space, fuel sales, right? Are we looking at this as the power of the private sector to be able to shape the pricing of fuel in Nigeria? Is that something that we should explore, especially regarding the other refineries outside Lagos, for example?
It is a welcome. I want to tell you that the coming of Dangote is one of the greatest scenarios of our experience. Let us be very frank indeed. I'm not here to advertise Dangote. No. I can't do that. But as a practical independent marketer who has been on the field and who has been in this oil and gas business for years, what Dangote has brought to the table in terms of distribution of petroleum products, I'm so grateful in my lifetime. Before it was only NLC. So if NLC doesn't give us petroleum products, we'll wait. And the queues in their own filling station will be as long as from Jericho to Lebanon. So it is this Dangote now that have been mystified the NLPs. The NLPs, so-called NLPs and their brand, most filling station owners are now taking out their brand from NLPs, and they are now standing on their own and rebranding their stations. I'm looking partner with another independent marketing company called MRS.
I mean, it's quite interesting, really, to see how all of this is played out, especially the filling station you mentioned. If you go on social media, you see a number of people who have been speaking to the quality of Dangote petrol and the possibility of it lasting even more than the others. But that's a conversation for another day. Mr. Alkadike, thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. All right, we'll move now to our next conversation. The federal government says that there will be an increase in cost of electricity in the coming months. Are we going to breathe? Now, speaking at a conference in Tanzania, President Tinubu's special advisor on energy, Oluvehejen, explained that electricity prices must rise to attract private investment and improve service delivery.
Now, here's what you should know. The federal government says electricity rates must rise by an estimated 2/3. The government is working on a $32 billion plan to expand Nigeria's electricity access. The federal government also says higher tariffs will help fund the power sector and reduce blackouts.
Now, it's also important to mention that this warning comes less than a year after a 300% tariff hike. And Nigeria's power sector struggles with low supply despite the country's 14 gigawatts installed power. Siemens is partnering as well with the federal government on a $2.3 billion project to improve transmission. And the federal government says subsidies will protect low-income consumers. Joining us to speak more to this and talk about the implications of this planned tariff hike and Nigeria's power situation is the former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Dr. Sam Amadi. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
All right, this planned tariff hike has already started to garner reactions. There's a possibility of protests that will be coming on by the NLC. They've announced their planned protest. Whilst they say on the one hand that they're looking to attract more investment and they need to be able to balance production, is there not a higher possibility that this tariff increase will send a lot of businesses, small and medium, into extinction?
Well, there is. This is the problem. The fiscal regime of government means that, or the monetary policy this time around, means that the prices, the cost of production has gone up. That's one basic fact. So electricity assets are purchased $1, even though we have a policy of conversion. But the point is that once there is devaluation of currency, once there's inflation, the implication is that you're going to rebase those costs. So what's happening in the electricity sector is unusual. Usually, when prices increase, there are three things happening. One is either there are new investments that are made which will improve power supply, and then the operators need to recoup those returns. And so you can see small adjustment in prices, in cost. Or there is emergency, let's say, countries with hurricane, and therefore you need to invest quickly to ramp up to restore the same level of supply, and then those costs has to be approved and somehow amortized with small increases. But what we are facing now is that there is no significant increase coming anywhere. And I've said that before. When this tariff was approved, the so-called band A and B and C, I spoke with some of the NEC officials. I said, look, what we are doing is that the NEC is being forced to respond to the currency crisis, the inflation that's happening, by increasing tariffs without any serious improvement in quality or any new investment. So, yes, it's going to affect small and medium enterprises because the unit cost of energy will go high. And what NEC did the last time was to say it's for those that call band A. But the truth is that almost everybody is being pushed to band A. And I say it was dishonest to say that you should have said, look, we're going to have tariff increase. I did about 2 increases in my own time, but I was upfront clear. I went about the media saying, this is the justification, we need to attract investment, blah, blah, blah. So the point here is, this is a difficult situation for the electricity sector. Consumers are not going to necessarily see improvement. And the double whammy is that they are those who are, if there's no 24-hour power as expected, they're going to go back to diesel generator, they're going to go back to fuel, and then they're going to also increase their costs. So it looks bad for cost of doing business on the whole, and maybe NEC is playing a circle. They just have to kind of find the money to show off these failing assets, the discos operators and so on. At the same time, they want to make sure that people can consume. And again, if these increases keep going up and there are no commensurate improvement in quality of service, it leads to bypassing and theft of power. That's a relationship between increase in tariffs without service matching up with increase in power theft, whether in terms of bypassing or conniving with disco operators to cheat the system. So it's not looking good, and probably in the future because of the policies the government have taken. But I think NEC should go back and rethink how this will affect different consumer groups, especially middle-small enterprises. They don't have too much, cost margin to internalize this cost without passing it on to their customers. And in many cases, they do just have to go out of business because they have no room to pass on, internalize or externalize those costs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amadi, for your fine analysis. It seems NEC, the first line of thinking is let's pass it on to the consumers. And you've said rightly that there's no commensurate improvement in the quality of electricity we've seen. Now, the government seems to be backing NEC. They're saying that there will be subsidies for vulnerable citizens. But based on past experiences, do you trust the government to implement a fair and transparent subsidy system that truly protects low-income Nigerians? Because when it comes to subsidy, what we see is, bags of rice. We don't have light. Don't give me rice. That's what we often get in this part.
Well, I think the reasonable subsidy government would do is to not increase the tariff of the supposed poor consumers. Now, this is a problem. Because the customer classification is not based on usage, actually, as much as on location. So, for example, you're on band A, band B, and those bands are more or less based on areas that the discos have mapped out. So, if we had real database classification, which means everybody is metered, if you consume below X amount, the tariff rate is X. If you now improve what we call two-tier tariff, so all those who consume less than 100 kilowatt hour per month, for example, that rate, unit cost can be 20,000. Then if you move to 200, it becomes 25,000 points. So if you have that kind of system, then they can isolate the so-called poor people and then mis-test it. So we don't have that data. Now, what's going to happen is that NEC might increase the tariff of some class of band A, for example, leave so-called band B, C, D, but the distribution companies will keep on migrating those people in B, C, D to A to make up their money, because the percentage of people who are going to do on A will be limited. So, at the end of the day, really, the poor people get hurt. That's the truth of the matter. Until you have a real data, clear data, and you clearly articulate and have enforcement and retail service level. Now, the other problem that's going to happen is that many states are now taking out themselves from NEC. So the confusion is, can these states subsidize consumers? So when NEC says tariff will increase, is it tariff increasing to those states also that are no longer or somewhat migrating away from net control. There is going to be a lot of confusion. But for me, my prediction is that consumers will pay more and probably will not get the matching level of improvement in quality of service. There's no way the volume of power that's coming to the system in the short to medium term is not big.
But that's unfair.
The distribution network is not that big. So we should expect massive improvement in service conditions.
I want to speak to that because that's really unfair. If what you have said is what we experience, where people in the different bands are now moved to Band A, meaning that people will have to pay more for the service. Even those in Band A are complaining about the epileptic power supply. We're still experiencing blackouts. The grid is collapsing every day. It decides to, have a mood swing. So shouldn't there be penalties if there's an increase in tariff? Shouldn't there be laid down penalties when the distribution doesn't match the expected
who's
supply?
Who's protecting the Nigerian consumers?
Sorry, I didn't get that. You said shouldn't there be what?
Penalties, where we see that people are paying for more, they're paying higher tariff, but that the supply is not matching what they're paying for.
There should be penalty, and that's what NEC exists to do. But see the problem. So the point I'm making is this. Every regulatory intervention is matched with the proper data and capability. So this is it now. NEC has punished some people who have egregious violation. But the point I'm making is that it's difficult for NEC to monitor this network perfectly. Again, NEC also knows that these discos are falling behind in revenue. So there's some kind of dead bread here. You know what? We know that they need to make more money because their books are not balancing well. You need to have regulatory integrity, and then the policy side of it should be strong. The minister, everybody should be strong and say, okay, we need to increase the financing of the utilities. But at the same time, we need to be very focused on auditing their revenue. When I was there, a year, 2 years after preparation before I left, that we did 6 months after, we did a snap audit of all the discos and discovered that some of them were overspending, some of them were using the funds to live large, and we penalize them. So audit is the way to go. They must be able to, if they're going to put this increase, they have to improve enforcement. And so far, I don't think that the enforcement level matches the level that we need to put these discos, make sure that the discos game is to increase their revenue all the time. That's how they behave. So I don't blame them. But the work of the regulator is to ensure that there's no windfall. And what I'm saying is that it's the temptation to move people into so-called Band A and promising to deliver them more power and not do that is very high. And so what we're going to see is that the discos will probably want to, but the more Band A you get, the more tariff increase you get for yourself. But the question is, if you have limited power, let's say 400 megawatts for Abuja, for example, and you put many people in Band A, where the power comes from? So either you move away power from other citizens and then give those people some power to keep them happy for the Band A. So either there's no power increase, but we have done reallocation, and many people who are not on that Band A will have a lot of outages, and maybe people on Band A will have some, but not enough to justify that. So head or tail, there's a gap here, and that gap is that we must work very hard to improve the sector, increase the revenue that comes through proper management of revenue change management, and again, improve the quality of power going to the grid. If you have more power, then you can unlock different pricing. More people will take more power to pay more premium. Then some people will still have good enough power to stay at a range where they can afford. If there had been more supply coming in and there's now a tariff increase and a change in tariff from Band A to B, then it makes sense that we give people premium and they pay more so that we receive more money and cross-subsidize those who are not going to get premium power, but they have enough power. So let's say everybody gets like a 10-hour, where regulated or 12, 15 hours out of 24. So everybody knows that between this time, there will be an outage. I will have power between this time. With that, the poor people, the working class people who don't have that money to pay much, may stay comfortable. But what we have is unscheduled, unplanned, and again, low quality power available. So my sense is that this is all done to reflect the current monetary policy, devaluation, inflation has eaten up or increased the cost of business, and NEC has to reindex those costs to allow this entities to be in power. But the problem is, they should be honest. I said, look, we have a financial headwind we are facing. We need to rescue this sector. We need to find revenue for them. and therefore the tariffs increase. And then across the board, these are the areas of improvement in service, not just hours, but also quality of power, even customer care, customer consultation. There are certain aspects that they can build confidence of customers while they agree to have this, to move towards this hard time. And maybe in 2, 3, 5 months, we have additional 1,000 megawatts into the grid that's able to be served, not just generation, but able to be distributed. And that will get the power average to maybe 5,000, and then you give more hours to those people who are struggling, and then somehow, with more power, you have higher revenue, and maybe at some point the tariffs will drop or at least stabilize. But for now, it's going to be difficult for the sector in the coming months.
Now, Dr. Amadi, you talk about more power, but I believe Nigeria has an installed capacity of 14 gigawatts, but it's only 4 to 5 gigawatts reaching end users. What does this say about Nigeria's power efficiency? And you also talked about, the power sector feeling the effects of devaluation and all of that. The Nigerian people have a threshold. They've already passed on the cost to them in pricing of food and other services. There's also talks of a 50% increase in telcos. And now, after a 300% increase in less than a year, the power that the MEC is saying they want another increment. I mean, there's only so much the average Nigerian can take. So my question to you is, how can government improve energy efficiency? Where should they focus their reforms on? And what's a win-win scenario for you in all of this, in very simple terms? Thank you.
Well, I think you got it right. There's everywhere the people get more hit. Again, increase in tariff will also increase customer inflation on basic goods and services, except some tariffs. Again, what can government do? I think the critical thing here is maybe find what can drive down the cost of energy. Thankfully, Dangote, I had a former conversation, Dangote is trying to come down. So assuming, all those fits into the cost of everything. So what we can do at this point is to find a way, maybe change this policy of currency devaluation. I think if you do a managed float that perhaps brings dollar to naira to, let's say, around 700 or 800 or thereabout, then you might see a quick reduction in tariffs, because those tariffs index those changes in cost. That's one aspect. So policy-wise, government has inflicted harm, maybe for good reason, let's hope, but so far, those risks are not coming forward. That's on the policy side. I think on the regulatory side, if NEC manages very well, they could drive down the cost. There are still levels of inefficiency in the operation of these utilities that they can reduce costs, they can reduce wastages, reduce corruption. Then you can see maybe some degree of drop in their cost. When the cost drops, then it goes back to consumer. Again, I think the governors, state governors, should be very quick to see if they can do renewable energy. I mean, there is a provision for feed-in tariffs, for distributed generation, embedded generation. So far, the states are not aggressive in supplementing the available power, because if you have some states create some modular power, then the cost of dropping it in their states less, and they can see more power at cheaper rates in some states than others. So we need to do a couple of things. Unfortunately, the policies and the capabilities do not match the level of crisis that we're facing now. And in my own sense, that the regulator, the policy, the Ministry of Power can do a lot to see if they can reduce by cleaning up the data set, ensuring that there are no wastes, there are no windfalls that are going to this. Look, these companies are also declaring profit every day. So operationally, they're not doing badly. But financially, but operationally, they're not doing very well. So there's a gap between commercial profitability and operational efficiency. So you have to close that gap and make sure that you reduce the cost and people have better service for less pay. That will happen when you improve the operational efficiency of the utilities.
Dr. Sam Amadi, thank you for joining us this morning. We just wait to see what the impact of this will be. My heart is already beating, because I know my estate will soon put a message in the group for all of us to beware.
I mean, we can't take it anymore. Thank you so much for your valuable insights, Dr. Sam Amadi, former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's now take you through your daily dose of the newspapers. to see what the front pages are saying. And we're joined this morning by journalist and public affairs analyst Abib Aruna. Good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning.
How you guys doing?
We are well, concerning this, looking at this electricity tariff increase, it's like, you look like you're not yet phased by it. Me, I'm already upset. My heart is beating.
We started with good news of Dangote reducing the price of petrol, and then the electricity people. So you're not winning.
It's not,
Either way, it's minus, so it feels like minus, because even this Dangote reduction is not going to be implemented across board yet, and I think it's still too little for us to see an impact. Then there's electricity tariff hike 50%, telecoms tariff hike 50%. So to be a Nigerian right now, it's just like, I need to go to my every country abroad now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Abib, for joining us. Let's start with our first newspaper. I believe that's the Daily Independent. The headline is 2025 budget. Estimated 13 trillion funding gap may compound real sector growth. That's a huge amount of money, 13 trillion. The writer says consumers' income erosion may push additional 13 million Nigerians into poverty. This is where you say, God forbid.
God forbid.
Yeah. And there's also CBN reforms improving diaspora remittance. Okay, some good news there. And tax reforms may stimulate growth. Still on the Daily Independent, we have Nigeria strengthens Ebola preparedness as Uganda confirms outbreak. Tariff hike. Telco's subscribers may migrate to Starlink. That's Elon Musk's Starlink as provider launches direct-to-phone service. Interesting developments there. And some sad news here over the weekend. 13 bumped to death in Ondo road crash. We also have on the front page of the Daily Independent, Buhari Tinubu's undemocratic credentials have taken the APC to early grave, says ex-APC vice chair.
All right, let's move away from the Daily Independent now and see the Nigerian Tribune, what's on the front page. The Nigerian Tribune big story this morning says, looking at 2027, Northern Leaders Coalition proponents write off PDP. That's on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. There's some writers. Do we have the Nigerian Tribune? Yes, thank you. The writers there, we see ex-military leaders offer stakeholders endorse coalition. Proponents may announce new platform late February. Leaders yet to agree on presidential standard bearer. LND playing lead role, sources say. Tinubu not worried by gathering of opposition. That's according to the presidency. Now the sad news, 30 passengers burnt to death in Ondo crash. Lagos speakership, Tinubu not reinstating Obasa, according to a source. So that drama is still ongoing.
We saw that rumor, so we would like
last week, to speak to it. Middle-aged man killed in Ibadan. Police launch manhunt for killers. No positive orders made on court processes to bind banks or GHL. This is according to GHL. And then we have at the top of the paper, FBN, why banks cannot comply with order lifting restrictions on GHL's account. This has been a case that has been ongoing, and it's interesting to see, the turnout. Maybe we'll speak to it at some point, but let's bring you this day newspaper.
Yes, this day, the front pages says First Bank admits defeat in Mariva case, 6 appeal without due process. GHL sees desperation. So we see a lot of this GHL and First Bank issue in the front pages of lots of papers. Court stops custom from collecting excise duty on non-alcoholic carbonated drinks, declares Ministry of Finance circular null and void, and stops customs from collecting transport feeding allowance from NECA. There's also another headline there. Oando releases 2024 financial results, gross revenue to 4.1 trillion. And trade war, Canada, Mexico, China is set to retaliate Trump's sweeping tariffs. I hope those tariffs are coming.
This tariff matter is really getting...
And some good news for the entertainment sector. 2025 Grammy Awards. Thames wins Best African Music Performance. I remember Olive doing an interview with Thames so many years ago. She was a producer then. I mean, who would have imagined that in less than a decade, she will be a Grammy Award winner.
I think that's really a sweet spot, and getting to see her celebrating with her mother. She took her mother to the Grammy Awards, and that was such good news. Anyway, let's move away from the good news and come back to the reality of Nigeria. Let's speak to the tariff hike. The front page of the Daily Independent talks about how telco subscribers may migrate to Starlink, and this is on the front page of the Daily Independent. So let's talk about what you think about the tariff hike. Is there any way we could have gone around this? Because it's been a tough time for Nigerians. The average Nigerian citizen is trying to make ends meet. So now they are dealing with 50% tariff hike. They're dealing with electricity hike. Is there any way that we could have gone around this without having to push the burden to the Nigerian consumers?
And bearing in mind that the minimum wage has not been implemented in quite a number of states, and salaries are not also increasing. So the average Nigerian, like Olive said, is in a very tough place.
Yeah, you need also add that people that are retired and are collecting pensions and gratuity.
Oh, wow. Thanks for that.
Yes, my younger brother retired last year, still waiting for his gratuity and pension. Can you imagine that?
See,
and it's from this
sometime last year,
and other countries, once you retire, it's automatic.
It's immediate. Yeah, because you have to
It's automated and your money will be given to you. But in Nigeria, people that serve Nigeria for 35 years.
Sometime last year, we went to cover an event, the breakfast team, and on our way back in Lagos Island, we saw senior citizens carrying placards asking for their pensions to be paid.
It's not
they
good.
Were standing in front of a certain bank in Lagos Island. You probably already know.
It's not a good development. But having said that, back to the issues you raised. You see, I foresee a situation whereby this tariff hike will not abate for now. It will continue. This government met a mess. There's no money. Government must look for revenue to consummate its agenda and programs. So they must look for the money. And that is why they are increasing their tax net. People can pay their taxes. They cannot continue to subsidize these things. You know the reality.
I mean, that's understandable.
No, I'm doing a contest. Yes. They cannot continue to subsidize electricity, fuel, and other things that they are subsidizing. And that is the reality. But you see, my problem is that government must have a human face. They must put human face to it. Yes, you know that you are looking for money, but people are suffering. Hardship is becoming too much. My brother, government job and duty, responsibility is to provide for the people. Just mention something now, you saw some elders, they call it seniors in some countries, carrying placard. These people serve Nigeria with their best. Now they've retired. You're not paying them money. And someone will not tell you that government borrowed the money. How can you borrow pension money? How can you borrow pension money? But it's not, it's everywhere. People that serve, even the military people have to go out there late last year, to protest for their money were paid. So I think all these things we need to situate it within a context. Yes, you are broke. Government is broke. We're increasing tariff on electricity. We're increasing tariff on the telecoms. This, at the same time, and there's no, as you said, there's no any corresponding increase in when workers are taking home. So this thing cannot work that way. I don't feel that one day...
But there's a trust deficit between the government and the people. They see the government spending.
That is a major point.
They see the optics that these people haven't...
No, that is a major point to address.
They haven't tightened their belt, and you're telling us to do all these things. So there's revenue leakage in some places.
Apart from...
Some people are not paying taxes.
Yes, they're not.
Billionaires and rich people. So it's a good thing that we're looking at the tax reforms. But is there any way, you said government should always put a human face to its reforms, that there will be a corresponding tightening of belts from their side, and the Nigerians will understand that, look, we're all in this together.
The sad thing is that Labour has been decimated. Labour is not strong enough to genuinely fight for the rights of Nigerians.
So that is, their strike is waste of time.
And that is why government is having a field day. You know, it's possible that these Labour leaders have been compromised. But if they are credible, and look at ASU, anytime ASU cries out, the government will sit up. But these are credible leaders. But Ajero and his gang, I don't know what they are doing. Because if Ajero is somebody that is serious and his people, government will not just take us for a ride. You know, government, yes, government, you are doing your own job, but Nigeria, you cannot slap me and tell me not to cry. It's a natural cause. So when I'm suffering, I'm going to let you know that I'm suffering. So government to try as much as possible to put human faces to it. The issue you raise is very cogent and very, very instructive. You know, when you are telling us to tighten our bed, and we see you, the way you are living, your way of living, the way you exhibit wealth, you know, kind of wonder, are these people sacrifices for the country? Are they sacrifices for the country? They are not doing that. You know, we are removing subsidies, and our debt portfolio is rising. Can you remember what I'm saying? We are removing subsidies, so there should be money on the table. There should be money on the table. Mm-hmm. So where's the money going?
And what's the benefit of being a Nigerian? We used to enjoy cheap petrol prices. Yeah. If you go to Venezuela, the oil producing companies, Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So what exactly do we gain?
Now that we are suffering, sacrificing for it, what are they doing with the money?
You know what's even worse? What's even worse is the fact that even if the quality, you know, of life is improving, you can say, okay, we're spending more, but we're seeing a commensurate increase. For example, in other countries in the West, they're paying a lot in taxes, but they can see where their taxes are going. Their infrastructure, the roads, the transport system, healthcare. In Nigeria, which one can we point to? Let's hear from Kolawole, who's calling. Good morning, Kolawole. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Kolawole.
Please go ahead.
The month of February, Valentine month. You see the Labour people, they are just playing politics. If you go to the Nigeria port, there are people, dock workers working there. They are not on nomination for retirement. None of them know that they are not on nomination for retirement. Labour is not dealing with that. Majority are casual workers. They are just playing politics. What concerns them about increase in tariff of electronic media provider? Everything in the country is up. The Telecom, they need to provide necessary, adequate, and efficient communication to all. Like me now, I have dropped this Nigeria Electricity Corporation, all these PPS, this and that. I've changed to solar. Since March last year, I don't use NEPA in my house. I use solar. Very soon, one of them will come back and pay us. All these people that government have at the back, psychologically bought all these companies from themselves, and they are draining us. Very soon, they will come and beg us. When people change to all these electricity people will come and beg. But the media people, the communication people, they require increase in the tariff because we know all what is going on. The Labour people, they don't need all that. They are just paying positive. Let them go to where I'm saying. I'm talking about at the Nigerian port. Majority people there, they are not on pension. They are casual workers. They should fight that. Let them go to free trade zone where the Chinese lock up our people. All the day they will not come out of the factory. They will be working, and they are not remunerated very well. That is the work of the Labour, not all this propaganda.
Yeah, you've really painted a picture. Thank you so much for calling. Thank you for contributing to the conversation this morning. He has painted a dire picture, but that's the reality of what Nigerians are experiencing today. You know, I'm even still seeing on the front page of the newspaper, Daily Independent talks about how consumers' income erosion may push additional 13 million people
to poverty. And these are the issues we need to discuss. I want to ask Mr. Aruna. Kolawole raised a point there when he said, you know, since last year it's disconnected from NEPA or
many people are switching to solar.
And you know, people oftentimes commend Nigerians for being resilient, but it's a double-edged sword. It's a good thing. It could also be negative. Nigerians provide their own water supply, boreholes, you know, they buy SUVs with their own security. And now, I mean, in the newspaper, it said businesses are considering Starlink, Elon Musk. The Starlink, they don't even want to do anything with telcos. And he also mentioned electricity. Are we going to get to a point where people just provide all that is necessary for them?
No, I think the government should be very careful, you know, and be sensitive to the feelings of people on the street. If they are not careful, one day they will see people on the street protesting. And that may lead to a state of anarchy. You know, there's something we raised in your opening remarks, that the government is not communicating well to the people. Why are you going to increase tariff on electricity now? When Bande already, before now, I spent about 30,000 naira per month. Now it's 30 naira for 5 days. Now you want to increase it again. I'm going to cope. If I'm complaining, can the people out there. So I think government is trying to, should not overstretch our patience.
Well, that's a little too late. We are already overstretched.
A good point to just hold on there for a second while we take this quick break. We'll be right back with Breakfast Central after this.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still reviewing the papers, and we have with us journalist and public affairs analyst Habib Aruno. Thank you once again for being here. I mean, the bulk of our conversation this morning has spanned the difficulty of being a Nigerian, living in Nigeria at this point. The papers say that CBN reforms are improving diaspora remittance. I don't know what impact you think this will have on the state of the economy, with the increase in telco tariffs, the increase in reduction in fuel price, although a number of people wonder what impact that will have, and the likelihood of 13 million people being pushed into poverty. Is this something to maybe smile at? The fact that tax remittance would increase?
I think it should be encouraged. I think apart from the oil, the money we derive from oil, the dollars, not only that's only we can make money, sell for it. That's our sole commodity, unfortunately, till now. After 150 years of independence, so commodity is true oil.
Yet every administration talks about diversification.
Even though we have timber, we have cocoa, we have palm oil, all those things are not, there's not enough aggressiveness.
Okay, we'll get to that shortly. We have a caller from Abuja. Good morning. Lenny from Abuja. Good morning.
Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning.
I want to talk about this electricity tariff. I want to talk about this electricity
Yes, please go ahead, Lenny.
tariff.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. This government, when they came in, the Band-Aid thing came in. They started this Band-Aid, so you can buy 1,000 naira for 4 units, right? Now they said they want to increase. They want to increase the tariff. And Nigeria is going to be buying 1,000 naira for 1 unit. They should not come and blame. Now let me paint the scenario. Why the government doesn't care about Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians? If you build a house, you know that you buy a pole. If your house is not close to the pole, you buy the pole, you buy the wires, they will not pay for the NEPA people, the electrical people to come and mount it for you from their office. They will come and do it. Then you now pay for meter by yourself. They will now come and mount it, and you pay people that come and mount it. Then you will now pay this Band-Aid. You know what it feels? The government doesn't provide water for you in the house. You dig your own bottle. They don't care about anything. In Nigeria, if the air we are breathing was taxable, I'm very sure this APC government would have taxed us. Thank you. Have a nice week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lenin. Yeah. So, Mr. Habib Aruna, 13 million people might fall into the poverty grab because they said the erosion of their consumer income erosion may push additional 30 million. And where's this erosion coming from, Olive? From all these increases and hikes, they can't even, the statistics say Nigerians spend a huge amount of their income on feeding. It's going beyond feeding.
It's definitely beyond that.
Here and there. What can the government do in the immediacy to stop these 13 million people from falling into poverty? We're not talking CNG, we're not talking rice. Because that's the sort of palliative measures we've been hearing. What can they do? Where are the low-hanging fruits?
Is the government even listening? Are they watching? Do they care what people are feeling? That is the question. That is the question. You know, government has a duty to increase revenue. They also have a duty to make sure that people's welfare is well taken care of. And that is basic. So what they can do is to make sure there's money in circulation, to make sure that people's salaries are well paid, possibly increase salaries.
Pensions.
Then the other one is, as I said, pensioners collect their money. If they collect their money, people's purchasing power will increase. And these guys may not fall into poverty. So that's the mechanism government can do. Not necessarily removing subsidies from all these things. And there's a way they can cushion, because even advanced countries, capitalist countries,
there's still subsidies.
They subsidize.
Yes.
They subsidize food, subsidize electricity, subsidize even fuel. So why are we living everything on pocket forces? When people in Abuja are living large and enjoying free things, you know, and people at the lower key, they are the ones suffering. So that should be a way of...
Yeah, it's part of the conditions IMF gives them to, you know, make life...
And the problem is that the executive policies will have a field day if there is no effective National Assembly legislature to caution them. And there is no labor to say, my friend, if you do it, you'll be on the street. That is it. So Nigerians should cry out. The media too is part of the segment of the society. The media should play its own role.
So every time I hear the Nigerians should cry out, I wonder what that picture would look like. Because Nigerians have been crying. They cried in end bad governance protest. They cried, you know, through all the protests that in a way have even been measured. And we haven't really seen as much impact from this protest. If NLC has talked about another planned protest, but they are protest again.
Don't forget that eternal vigilance is the price we pay for having freedom. You have to be vigilant at all times. Because the government is there to do its own work. We do our own work by crying out. The government knows that if people cry out, it will be worse. The system will be bad. It will affect it will be to the growth of the country. They will be more circumspect.
The eye that we use for internal vigilance, the eyes that Nigerians use for internal vigilance, they don't use and they cry. And where they cry, no, they see them. We have Elder David, I believe, calling. Good morning. Thanks for calling. Please turn on the volume of your TV set and then go ahead with your contribution.
David, I'm afraid we might not be able to take your call because of the quality. You need to turn down the volume of your TV set.
All right, yes, please go ahead now.
Thank you very much. Ajero proposed protest is never justified. Let him check himself. What is he protesting for? The network that are going to increase their distance, they are justified because without that, the banking system is already in distress. What I expect Ajero to be doing, if it's an old man like us who have retired in 1998, we are not getting our pension. You talk about pensioner. Is it not going to grow old? When Oshimole was there, was fighting righteously for everybody, but instead came here and be playing politics, a member of Labour. And let him get out from there. No Nigerian will support him. Because after transportation, the next one is network. Is it not Nigerians that are working there? When we are talking of 50%, is it too much? Without these people, the banking system will be in distress today. To transfer money and all that, people are kidnapping to carry money. You go to a bank, cannot even get up to 20,000. Why is it against them? It's a question, it's about the attention. Let him be careful about this government. This government is trying his best for us. Let him not gather attention. Let him go and protest to support the pensioners, those soldiers that have died. Those Nigerian Airways staff will not be paid. Telecom said it when they are part of the Senate committee. And that the money for Nigerian Airways pensioners is with Minister of Finance. That the Minister of Finance is sympathetic with you and pay us our money. Let me tell Nigerian Airways staff, they are the present driver today. They are the mechanics. They are the ones who are the pilot. We call them drivers on the air. The flight engineer and others are the mechanics. They are crying to him to help us. People are dying. What of the retired soldiers who are not being paid? The same man.
All right. Elder David, thank you for calling. I mean, this just represents what you had spoken to earlier regarding pensioners who are not yet, and I even imagine what they're going through. You know what they're going through. 1, 2. My heart breaks at the idea of what their pension will amount to. The value of inflation, you know, the monies at the time would have amounted to something, but today, inflation has already kicked into.
I don't even know how our leaders, how they think. In Lagos State, where I served, it's not, you don't joke with pensions. Don't joke with their pension. When you retire, they pay you as soon as possible.
My mother served in Lagos State.
So they don't joke with it. I don't know why the federal government will go and borrow money from the pension fund. It's a criminal offense. It's not acceptable. It's not decent. We should not accept it.
I mean, the concept
when you serve the country,
in other countries,
you deserve your paycheck.
Priority is given to pregnant women and over senior citizens.
And in some countries, once you are 60, as I was last year, when you are 60.
Wow, you don't look.
No, absolutely. I was 60. You know, everything is automatic for you. It's free. You travel, you know what I'm talking about. Even that bus don't pay. Medical service, everything is free. But that is, apart from the fact that you are paid immediately.
Yes.
Your entitlements. But Nigeria, it's not done.
We don't treat our senior citizens well, honestly.
It's not done. It's not. We should make noise. You shout at the roof. We should stop this nonsense.
Quite a lot to unpack, and thank you so much for your insights.
I was thinking we touch on the Lagos State on the speaker or something.
We'll do that some other time during the week.
Yeah,
thank
we unfortunately have to run out now. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, so much has been spoken about, but we have more to bring your way when we look at Which Way Nigeria coming up next.
The recent freeze on the U.S. HIV funding, including support for Nigeria, sent shockwaves around the world, though a temporary waiver has eased the freeze. But let's be clear, this is a warning sign we cannot ignore. For far too long, we've built our healthcare system on a foundation of foreign aid. But here's the hard truth. If a single policy decision in Washington can put millions of Nigerian lives at risk, then we're standing on shaky ground. It's time we take full ownership of our healthcare system, because foreign aid should be a bonus and not a lifeline. Last year, the United States invested over $600 million into Nigeria's health sector. Programs like the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, have provided life-saving HIV treatment to over 1.6 million Nigerians. The U.S. President's Malaria Initiative has contributed to a 55% drop in malaria deaths since 2000. And let's not forget their critical role in helping Nigeria eradicate wild polio in 2020. These contributions have saved lives, and we must acknowledge that. But they also highlight a painful reality. Our healthcare system cannot stand on its own. Take a look around. At the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, patients sleep on the floor because there aren't enough beds. General Hospital in Makurdi is struggling with broken equipment. In Enugu, mothers are dying from preventable childbirth complications. These are not just statistics. These are our friends, our family, our fellow Nigerians. And where are leaders in this? They fly abroad for medical checkup, while ordinary Nigerians are left to suffer. The situation is even worse when you realize how fragile our pharmaceutical industry is. We import 70% of our medicine, including crucial HIV drugs. Our best doctors and nurses are leaving in droves, searching for better opportunities abroad. And despite being one of Africa's largest economies, our health budget is painfully low, leaving hospitals underfunded, medical workers underpaid, and patients without proper care. This isn't just about money, it's about priorities. The time for excuses is over. Our government must invest in hospitals, pay our doctors what they deserve, and develop a strong pharmaceutical industry so we can produce essential drugs locally. We also need to end corruption, eliminate wasteful spending, and commit to genuine health reforms. Let's stop waiting for foreign government to dictate the fate of our people. No one is coming to save us. Enough is enough. It's time to take charge of our destiny. Let's get to work. Good morning, Nigeria.
A lot of work that really needs to be done in Nigeria. The healthcare system does certainly need a reform, but it's not just healthcare. Every day we're opening different layers of the work that needs to be done in the healthcare, the road infrastructure, even with transportation, feeding. It's a lot that Nigerians have to deal with. And now talking about the potential strike, what the impact will be is another thing that one has to explore. If really this strike will have any impact at all, and if the NLC has lost its influence in being able to make the country or make the government catch a cold when it sneezes. It doesn't seem like that is the case anymore, because NLC has been accused of being in bed with politicians time and time again. But the one thing we'll continue to do is to hold them by the jugular here on Breakfast Central through the conversations that we have in our interviews, as well as on Which Way Nigeria. I think of all the conversations that we've had today, the one that really concerns me the most, I've highlighted this throughout the conversations today, is the electricity tariff hike, because I already pay, and this is me, you know, I don't pay as much as certain people, yes, but I pay exorbitant rates for electricity. And it feels like even with the consumption levels, like it moves faster than before. What would typically last me for 3 weeks is now lasting for just 1 week.
And it's not sustainable. I mean, it's just how much more do they expect people to pay? And another thing I've noticed is typically when there's a strike, and I guess it speaks to labor to really do some introspection. If there's a strike, if there's a call for a strike, people normally support the general public. But there's a lot of pushback for labor. They're saying, look, why are you striking? This guy's haven't made any increment in the last 9-10 years. So why do you want to go out and protest? There are pensioners there that are not getting paid. There's the high price of petrol. There are other issues they should focus on. And I find it very shocking, because what it basically means is, you know, Nigerians are ready to pay more for telco, or is it that it's the labor people?
I think it's more about the labor. Yes, I think it's more about labor than it is about Nigerians being comfortable with paying extras. Right now, Nigerians take whatever discounts they can get.
What's the NLC's crime?
So, thank you very much for that question. The NLC's crime, according to a number of Nigerians, is the fact that they don't see the impact that the NLC has in terms of being able to hold the government to account. When they call strikes, how many people turn up for the strike? And after a day of going on strike, they will go and have a closed-door meeting. They will come and say, oh, we are putting the strike on hold.
And things happen in those closed-door meetings.
So that's the cocoa, because they say that they're being in bed with politicians. They don't see the impact of the NLC in being able to. Back in the day, when the NLC sneezes, the government will catch serious cold. If there's a threat of strike, the government will sit up.
In the days of Adams and Leo Shomole, the comrade...
As he then was.
Yes.
With his khaki.
Comrade senator.
Yeah, as he then was. So I think, again, these are some of the conversations that we'll be exploring. The potential of the proposed date for the intended strike is the 4th of February, and which is a few days from now. So we're going to, you know, keep looking at these conversations as we proceed. But we'll be drawing the curtains here on Breakfast Central. It's been a delight to have you join us on the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Do well to continue the conversations that will be happening on the station via our subsequent shows. But for now, it's adios from us in the studio. I am Ole Emodi.
And I'm Benga Borough. Thanks for being a part of the Breakfast Central conversations this morning. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.